Set in the year 1930, the story opens with a man named Wilfred James staying in a hotel, writing down the full account and confession of a terrible sin he once commits. 8 years earlier, in 1922, Wilfred lives with his wife, Arlet Christina James, and their teenage son, Henry. They reside on a 100-acre cornfield in Nebraska, a piece of land inherited by Arlet after the passing of her father. The land originally belongs to Arlet's family, but it becomes a point of conflict within their household. As time passes, a growing difference in opinion causes escalating arguments between Wilfred and Arlet. Arlet wishes to sell the land, leave the countryside, move to the city with Henry, open a dress shop, and begin a new life among people and society. On the other hand, both Wilfred and Henry prefer staying on the farm, maintaining a simple and peaceful life close to the land they love. With neither of them willing to compromise, tensions in the house begin to boil over. Arlet declares she wants to end the marriage and start a new life on her own terms. That moment marks the beginning of the breakdown of their marriage and deeply fractures the harmony they once share. Wilfred's love for his wife turns to resentment. He begins to harbor a growing hatred toward Arlet. One day, Wilfred finds Henry in the barn spending time with a young woman named Shannon Cottery, the daughter of their neighbor and a wealthy landowner. Instead of discouraging the relationship, Wilfred allows it to grow, even subtly encouraging it. His real motive is to make Henry feel emotionally attached to the farm and more resistant to the idea of moving to the city. Wilfred begins to manipulate his son, planting the idea that they would be better off without Arlet. Slowly, that idea takes root in Henry's heart, and a sense of bitterness toward his mother begins to grow. At the dinner table one evening, Henry, influenced by his father, voices his desire for Arlet to leave without selling the land. Naturally, this infuriates Arlet, who scolds him harshly. Wilfred, however, continues feeding Henry more of the same reasoning until they both begin to see one path as the only solution. That night, Wilfred approaches Arlet and claims that he has made a final decision along with Henry. They would all move to the city together and start fresh. Arlet, surprised and overjoyed by the news, celebrates with them. However, Henry remains visibly cold, his expression still marked by anger and suspicion. Later that night, Wilfred helps his intoxicated wife to bed, gently laying her down. Then he meets with Henry again. Wilfred has made up his mind. Tonight, they will carry out the plan to eliminate Arlet. Although Henry still hopes for an alternative solution, one that would allow them to stay on the land without having to go that far, Wilfred assures him that this is the only way. With a heavy heart, Henry follows his father into the bedroom. He stands silently as his mother lies asleep. Whispering a farewell, Henry covers Arlet's face with a cloth. At the same time, Wilfred stabs her repeatedly and finally ends her life with a slit across her throat. Afterward, Wilfred and Henry dispose of Arlet's body by throwing it into the old well behind their house. Together, they clean up the blood and remove all traces of the crime, tossing every item into the well. When Wilfred looks down into the darkness, he notices the white sheet has slipped off her body. Arlet's lifeless eyes stare back at him, and rats have already begun to gnaw at her remains, making the moment even more unbearable. Wilfred then begins crafting an alibi, carefully setting the stage to make it appear as if Arlet has left on her own accord, walking away with a suitcase full of clothes. He tells neighbors and friends that Arlet has chosen to abandon the farm without saying a word. One day, while Wilfred is working in the fields, a lawyer from the city named Lester and a man named Lars arrive at the farm. They come to discuss Arlet's legal rights to the land and her intent to sell it. Wilfred sticks to the story he has planned, but Lester seems skeptical. He finds it odd that Arlet, who has fought so hard to claim her father's inheritance, would suddenly disappear without a trace. Sensing his doubt, Henry steps in to support his father's version of events, helping to convince Lester to leave. For now. However, the lawyer leaves with a great deal of suspicion. Although the well contains all the evidence of their crime, Wilfred isn't ready to fill it in yet. He fears that Lester will return soon, possibly with the authorities. Wilfred comes up with a plan to seal the well in a way that won't arouse suspicion. He drives one of their cows to stand above the wooden cover of the well and breaks the planks. causing the animal to fall in. Later, when Sheriff Jones comes to the property, Wilfred casually mentions the cow's accident. He then invites the sheriff inside to inspect Arlet's wardrobe. With Henry's help, the officer finds nothing suspicious and leaves the farm without raising any alarms. Afterward, Wilfred and Henry continue sealing off the old well. That night, Wilfred goes to the barn to check on the remaining cattle. One of the cows keeps making noises. As he examines it, he discovers a rat chewing on the animal's flesh. The rat then scurries into a pipe that leads directly to the well. Alarmed, Wilfred immediately seals the pipe to prevent more rats from entering or escaping. The next morning, Henry shares news that Shannon is pregnant with his child. Not long after, Shannon's father, Mr. Cottery, approaches Wilfred. He asks for financial support to cover Shannon's care. Wilfred's face reflects a growing distaste toward Harlan Cottery. It isn't just about the responsibility Harlan asks of him. It is the deeper resentment Wilfred feels toward Harlan's success, his stable life, and the unwavering support of his wife. Meanwhile, Henry, who doesn't want Shannon to be sent away to a maternity home, takes her with him, driving off in Wilfred's truck. Wilfred discovers this only after finding a letter Henry has slipped into the vehicle. Now, Wilfred lives completely alone on the land he once calls paradise. After the death of his wife and the disappearance of his son, guilt weighs on him every day. Haunted by what he has done, he begins hallucinating, seeing what looks like blood dripping from the ceiling, though it is only water leaking from the holes in his roof. The red dress that has belonged to Arlet continues to catch his eye, so he moves it to the barn, trying to keep it out of sight. That night, he lies in bed alone. The next morning, Sheriff Jones arrives and informs Wilfred that the truck Henry has taken is found abandoned. Nearby, someone dressed like a cowboy has robbed a dry goods store, and the authorities suspect Henry is the culprit. Wilfred firmly denies all accusations. He insists that Henry is a good boy and that such claims have no basis. As winter approaches, Wilfred, now without money and with a leaking roof, decides to mortgage his home and land for $750. After securing the loan from the bank and returning home, he is bitten by a rat while putting the cash away. The wound grows worse each day, and Wilfred, refusing to seek help, tends to it himself while taking pills in an attempt to speed up the healing. That day, snow begins to fall, accompanied by biting winds. From inside his house, Wilfred catches a glimpse of Arlet, staring directly at him. Terrified, he tries to shut her out, but her ghostly presence continues to appear until one night Wilfred stumbles and falls down into the basement in fear. There, Arlet appears to him again, now joined by a swarm of rats and the ghostly presence of Shannon. Whispering from the other side, they share with Wilfred a terrible truth: what has become of Henry. They reveal that Henry has been involved in a series of robberies across towns on the outskirts, acquiring firearms to carry out more daring crimes. His name has now risen to the top of the wanted list in the area. One day, during a robbery, a store clerk fires a shot that hits Shannon. Gravely wounded, Henry takes her to an abandoned barn. Wilfred, unable to bear what he is hearing, pleads with Arlet to stop, to end him the same way he has ended her. But Arlet continues her whispers. As Henry tries to start a fire in the barn to keep warm, he realizes that Shannon, the girl he has loved, the reason behind everything he has done, has passed away along with their unborn child. Crushed by grief and wounded from the gunfire, Henry lies beside her and chooses to end his own life. The next day, Wilfred finds himself in a hospital. His hand has been amputated due to the untreated rat bite. Sheriff Jones visits him there, sharing the news that the body of a woman killed in one of the robberies has been identified as Shannon. With this confirmation, all suspicion is lifted from Wilfred's name. Wilfred is devastated. The sins of his past, now written down in his confession, have become a burden heavier than he can bear. In the coroner's report, it is revealed that Henry's body has been discovered with his face mutilated, most likely by rats before he is found. At his funeral, not a single person comes. No friends, no relatives. Only Wilfred stands there, accompanied by the ghost of Arlet and the ever-present rats. There is no joy, no peace on the land he once thinks would bring him happiness. Everything has vanished. leaving only regret and profound loneliness. Wilfred even brings home a stray animal to live with him, hoping it might ease the silence that now consumes the house. The next morning, Wilfred meets with Harlan to sell the farm and the house. He notices how Harlan's life has changed too. Now alone, his wife having left him, even Harlan's once enviable world mirrors Wilfred's despair. When Wilfred returns home, he finds his only companion, his pet, lying injured in the yard. To end its suffering, he shoots it. In doing so, Wilfred ensures that truly nothing remains. He is utterly and completely alone. Eventually, Wilfred is forced to sell both his house and land at a very low price to repay the debt he owes the bank. He then moves to the city, the very place Arlet has once dreamed of starting a new life. It is there that he realizes he could have been happy with her and Henry, had he only let go of his pride and hatred. But there is no undoing the past. Regret changes nothing. The weight of guilt and fear follows him every day. As he finishes the final pages of his confession, Wilfred stands alone in his dim room, only to see the spirits of Arlet, Shannon, and Henry now surrounding him, with Henry holding a knife in his hand. And so the film ends.
If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. Because by subscribing, you have supported me to make better videos. See you in the next video.